Okay, in a previous video, we created a master key and a certificate for transparent data encryption. Now, if you have not watched that video yet, back up and watch that one first, because we have to do those things before we can enable transparent data encryption in our Microsoft SQL database. So make sure you have done that. Now, if you have done that, then we are ready to enable transparent data encryption. Now, let's talk about what that is. Transparent data encryption is to SQL databases what BitLocker is to Windows Server and client hard drives. So it encrypts the data as it's stored. It encrypts data at rest. And if somebody were to try to take the data, so detach the database, copy the database files, move them somewhere else, attach them to a new instance, it's going to be encrypted and it can't unencrypt it. So the database won't actually attach. It won't open. And it can't do that because the certificate that it's encrypted with is stored in the master database. Now, if the master database ever gets corrupted, then you need to have a backup of the master key, the certificate. And again, that's talked about in previous videos. So again, if you haven't watched that, back up and do that. Now, once you have that, transparent data encryption is cool because it's encrypting everything at that hard drive level. Now, that does not protect you if somebody gains access to your SQL instance while your database is attached. Then they could run queries to it, they can pull data out of it, they can do all of those things that they would do otherwise. So transparent data encryption does not keep you from having to secure access to your SQL server. This is in addition to, and it's in case somebody tries to bypass your other security measures by detaching and walking off with your database. So I hope all of that makes sense. Now, I've built what I need for my transparent data encryption. So I'm going to activate that on my AdventureWorks database. So I'm going to right click on my AdventureWorks database and I'm going to go to Tasks. And under Tasks down here is Manage Database Encryption. Now, the Always Encrypted wizard is something completely different. We're going to take a look at that in a different video. But we're looking at database encryption or transparent database encryption, and it's called transparent because the end result, the program, you don't have to programmatically decrypt everything. When you attach the database, it decrypts. That is different from doing column level encryption, where instead of encrypting the entire database, you just encrypt a column. And one of the ways we can do that, there's a couple of ways, but one of them is with the Always Encrypted wizard. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. The point is this: with transparent data encryption, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about decrypting. The database does it for you. With column level encryption, when you are developing your database and you're writing a query to pull data out, then you have to attach the key, decrypt the data, display it, close the key so that it'll be encrypted again. You don't have to deal with any of that with transparent data encryption. All right, so let's manage database encryption. And enter server certificate. So we already created one, so I can click my drop down and here's my transparent cert. And then I can choose here which level of encryption to use. Triple DES is probably the lowest level. AES is going to be standard. The number is how complex, how many bits we have for the encryption. The higher the encryption, the more secure it is. However, the higher the encryption, the more it takes to encrypt and decrypt. I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up. Now, I'm doing this using certificate. You can also do this using a server asymmetric key, but I haven't created a server asymmetric key. I wanted the certificate for this one. So let me go back there. Now, the other thing is I have to turn database encryption on. If I don't, well, nothing happens. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want to set database encryption on. And this is important to know because we can come back here later, manage database encryption, turn it off if we need to. So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to start encrypting my database. How do I know if it encrypted my database? That's a really interesting question. So I can right-click back on my AdventureWorks database, and I can go to, so tasks, let me show you this here, manage database encryption. This is where I can turn it off. I can re-encrypt the database using a different encryption key. Ooh, that could be a little sketchy sometimes. I can regenerate the database encryption key if I want. Again, if you don't have to do those things, don't. Here's where I would turn it off. But I can also go to properties and it will show me that my encryption status, this database is encrypted. This is all the dates when that happened. Here's my database encryption algorithm, my key length, my type, and here's the name of the encryptor or the certificate. Cool. At this point, we have turned on transparent database encryption for our database.